Here's a story. Judge rules family can't refuse chemo for boy.
Yeah.
A Minnesota judge ruled Friday that a 13-year-old cancer patient must be evaluated by a doctor to determine if the boy would benefit from restarting chemotherapy over his parents' objections. That's a tough one.
Well, that's what's screwy
Not for
about
me,
that
it wasn't.
case, though,
No,
is
no.
He's had chemo before.
Yeah.
It seems like an odd turnaround. But yeah, the mother just ran off with him.
Yeah.
They had her worn out. After a couple weeks, she came back and they dropped the charges.
Right.
And now he's getting treatment, although it may actually be too late.
Yeah. And the kid himself said he would fight it if
Well,
they
no.
ordered him to take it.
They were trying. They did. This is perhaps more distressing to me than the fact that you have a young kid with cancer who was being denied what doctors consider to be the best treatment.
Yeah.
They tried to evaluate his competency to determine if he was in a position where he understood things and could, competently refuse this treatment.
Right. And they discovered stuff.
Part of the competency hearing involved a literacy test. There's a 3-letter word that this kid could not identify. THE. Wait, because I'm getting ready to do the punchline that's going to piss people off. Homeschooled.
Oh!
Homeschooled, religious nuts, denying medical treatment. The kid cannot fucking read. I'm not going to go out on a limb. I realize there are plenty of kids who have been homeschooled who have done great, perhaps even better than they could have in another school. I don't object to homeschooling on the whole. My position hasn't changed. It needs to include proper oversight. But the fact of the matter is that most people who are doing homeschooling are doing it for religious reasons, and they are killing off or severely retarding the progress of an entire subset of the next generation.
And what I don't get is the staunch support for homeschooling being the way it is from people who were homeschooled well.
Yeah.
And, I don't get it. You ask them, well, don't you think it would be a good idea if state educational standards were such that all homeschooling parents had to do as well as yours did?
Well,
that were something that were necessary.
There's a general philosophy of objection to oversight, which is what Matt wants, because those people, I think, were lucky to have parents who were competent. But in the case of parents who don't do such a good job with homeschooling their kids, there's no way to, there's no way to make them bring their standards up.
It reminds me a little bit.
They'll sabotage the...
It reminds me a little bit, by example, analogy. You've got an 18-year-old kid who gets a motorcycle and learns how to ride it. He's been raised on dirt bikes, and he takes off down the highway at 120 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic, makes it to his destination safely. That's not an argument for allowing everybody to go 120 miles an hour weaving through traffic on a bike.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like going 120 miles an hour in your car because you have to get to the hospital to save somebody's life doesn't, in general, mean that you should repeal speeding laws. Or torture.
Yeah. There are people out there who are going to think this is completely unfair because I picked a single data point, and my response to them is, so are you. When we look at the larger data point, yes, there are a lot of kids who do really great in homeschool. I'm not objecting to homeschooling. I just want oversight so that maybe we don't ever have to bring a kid in for a competency test and he's unable to identify, what is he, 11?
11?
Yeah.
And he's unable to identify the single most common word in the English language. I mean, obviously, the kid just can't read.
Right. It's like...
Not to mention
education as a way to keep people ignorant.
I think it should be required. If you want to homeschool your kid, you have to take a test and you have to get a license.
Yeah, I would actually advocate that because demonstrating that you are at least competent to teach is something that we require of anybody who's going to teach in the public sector or the private sector. I don't see why parents should be excluded for this.
You should have to get a license. Your kid should have to maintain the same standard of education on the standardized testing that they do for public school kids. If he fails, you lose your license. He goes back to public school.
Maybe his parents were just praying that he'd
needs to be
learn to read on his
strict.
own.
I just think it would be, there about half that rigorous would be fine with me.
No, that'd be an improvement on what it is.
Yeah,
but if we're going to allow
that's
it,
my point.
it should be equal.